So, the H-1B visa. You hear about it all the time, right? Is it America's secret weapon for staying on top of the innovation game? Or is it really just a scam to undercut American workers? The debate gets pretty heated, but the source material we're looking at today paints a much clearer picture. Let's dig in. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll tackle that scam accusation head on. Then, we'll look at the cold, hard data. After that, we'll get into the human side of things, the potential domino effect if things change, and we'll wrap it up with one absolutely stunning economic reality check. Okay, first up, the accusation itself. The criticism of the H-1B program is, well, it's intense. You have a lot of people arguing it's a totally broken system that just hurts American workers by creating unfair competition and pushing down wages, especially in tech. That one word, scam. It's powerful, right? It's really at the heart of the criticism. The whole idea is that this program, which was once seen as helping build America's tech dominance, is now being painted as the bad guy in the story of the American economy. And look, this isn't just some background noise. This is a full-blown political narrative. You've got powerful figures like Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick saying the system needs to be fixed or even ripped apart. The central argument here is that big companies are exploiting the visa to replace perfectly qualified Americans with foreign workers, all under the guise of protecting our own job market. Okay, so that's the story they're telling. But do the numbers actually back that up? Let's switch gears and look at the hard data from the source material, because it tells a very different story. I mean, just look at this. Nearly 3/4, 72%, of all H-1B visas go to Indian nationals. Now, this isn't random. The source suggests this is proof that America is tapping into a very specific, high-skill talent pool that it's struggling to find enough of right here at home. And this slide right here just blows that whole cheap labor argument right out of the water. The median salary for an H-1B worker is almost 3 times the median salary in the U.S. These are not low-wage jobs. They are high-skill, high-paying, expert roles. So much for cheap labor, huh? And the sheer scale of this is it's mind-boggling. We're talking over 11,000 applications, and that's from Amazon alone in just 1 year. Now, imagine adding in all the other tech giants. You start to realize this isn't some casual preference. The source basically calls it life support for these companies. But numbers on a screen can only tell you so much. The source argues that to really get what the H-1B is about, you have to look at the people. You have to look at this incredible human pipeline that has literally shaped modern America. Let's talk about a guy named Sundar Pichai. He comes from Chennai, India, makes his way to Stanford to study. And it was the H-1B visa that was his ticket to stay here and build a career. And today, well, he runs Google. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. The source really makes you wonder, what does our world even look like without him? And it is the exact same story for Satya Nadella. He came from Hyderabad, and for him, the H-1B was the bridge that let him stay in the US after university. And that bridge took him all the way to the CEO's office at Microsoft, where he pulled off one of the most incredible corporate turnarounds in modern history. And the list just goes on and on across every major industry. Jensen Huang, who's basically powering the entire AI revolution at NVIDIA, Jay Chaudhry, building a cybersecurity empire with Zscaler, Indra Nooyi, who completely transformed PepsiCo. The point the source makes is a powerful one. You take away the H-1B, and you risk ripping these pages right out of America's success story. The physicist Dr. Michio Kaku, he puts it perfectly. He calls it the genius visa. He says it's America's secret weapon for staying on top. So if this visa is so important, what happens if you start messing with it? What happens if you restrict it? Well, the source material lays out a pretty clear and kind of scary chain reaction, a domino effect with some huge consequences. Okay, so the source basically maps it out like this. Step 1, you tighten the visas. But hey, the need for that top-tier talent doesn't just vanish into thin air. So what happens next? Companies start moving those high-paying jobs overseas. And the last domino to fall? U.S. innovation starts to slow down, and investment money, well, it follows the talent right out the door. And this isn't just some theory. Let's get real for a minute. Think back to the pandemic. The source points out that in the 10 years before it hit, our vaccine developers had hired over 3,300 scientists on H-1B visas. And the really chilling question is, without them, how much slower would we have been? how many more lives would have been lost? All right, this brings us to the final argument, the closing blow, if you will. For this, we have to pull the camera way back and look at the true economic scale of this talent pipeline. And honestly, the numbers are just staggering. 46%. Let that number sink in. According to the source, that is a percentage of Fortune 500 companies, we're talking the biggest of the big, that were founded by immigrants or their children. We are not talking about a small contribution here, we're talking about the very bedrock of the American economy. And what does that 46% translate to in actual dollars? How about $8.6 trillion in annual revenue? That's a number so big, it's almost hard to comprehend. To put that into perspective for you, if the revenue from just these companies was its own country, it would be the third largest economy on planet Earth. That is the insane scale of the contribution we are talking about. And this is really the final stark warning from the source material. If this pipeline gets shut down, innovation doesn't just stop. It doesn't die. It just moves. It moves to places like Bangalore or Berlin or Shanghai, because the global race for talent never, ever stops. So it all comes down to this one final question. When you really look at the data, the people, and the unbelievable economic impact, is restricting the H-1B program just a case of killing the goose that laid Silicon Valley's golden egg? The sources lay out the stakes pretty clearly. Now, the answer is up for debate.